Good morning. This is Jamey from Stonemeyer Games. I'm coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri, as I usually do every Wednesday at 10 a.m. But today is extra special because today is e-newsletter day, and today is the pre-order for Viticulture World. Finally, this and the wine crate are now available on our web store right now. I have been getting some questions about it being hard to find on our web store, and it's due to a slight staggered release. Our web developer puts it on the web store, but kind of hides it at first just to make sure everything's working behind the scenes. And then he adds it to the homepage, to the viticulture collection and whatnot. So it should work now. If you just go to our web store, you should see it. Or if that doesn't work, what I've heard is that if you just click directly on the links that I included on in the description below, if you look at the description of this video, you'll see a link to the e-newsletter. Here, I'll click it on it right now to see if it works. I have my other screen up here. I'll click on the US store. Let's see where it takes me. Yeah, it took me right to Viticulture World. So those links within the e-newsletter should definitely work if you aren't able to get it just by navigating to our web store. And as usual, we do have 4 different web stores. We have one in the US, one for Australia, one in Europe, and one in Canada. You should be automatically directed to the correct web store, but if you aren't, or even feel free to just look in the URL and see if you have the little AUS or CA, or I don't know what the European one says. What does it say? It has the word Europe in it, so it's pretty clear there. Yeah, so feel free to check on that as you're placing your pre-orders. We have everything viticulture related on sale for the next 4 days. Yeah, so if you are new to viticulture, this is a great time to get in. If you don't have special things like the smaller expansions or the metal coins, you can get those now as well. And of course, there is the Viticulture World cooperative expansion that we are so excited to finally share with you. Let's see if there's anything else. I'll jump over to questions in a second, but anything else related to this, you should see in your final cart. You should see, and Joe can correct me if he's listening to this if it's wrong, but I'm pretty sure in your final cart you should see the promo pack, which should be automatically added. You don't need to add that on your own. You should see that, and you should also see the replacement cards added automatically. They should be added automatically to your order. If you don't see them, it's fine to still go ahead and place your order. And feel free to contact Joe at joe@stomeyergames.com so he can look at it. But they should be there. You shouldn't have any problems with that. But don't also mess with it. Don't remove them from your cart because they are supposed to be there so that our fulfillment centers know to send them to you as part of your order. Yeah, a lot of information, a little info dump there right at the beginning. But yeah, I'm excited that this day is finally here. We had to stall a little bit due to freight shipping issues, and it has finally arrived at all of our fulfillment centers and is ready to ship starting next week to champions. And then after champions are finished, I don't know, that might take a week or so, we'll start shipping to everyone else. So throughout June, we'll be shipping this product to you, or these products to you. Chad says that Walter in the background looks excited. Yeah, we got Walter back here. Full of floof today, full floof. All right, well, I have the e-newsletter up on my other screen here, so let me go through this real quick. Feel free to bring it up on your screen if you want to look through it. I mentioned, obviously Viticulture World, the wine crate, that all viticulture stuff is on sale right now, and that we are including a free first game promo pack with every order from our web store for the wine crate or Viticulture World. One of the other questions I've heard a lot is the wine crate available from our localization partners, so in other languages? The wine crate itself is language independent, but the first printing of the English version of the wine crate includes Viticulture World inside the box. And so I think that's why people are asking that question. And on the wine crate page of our website, we actually list the fulfillment partners who are offering the wine crate directly from them or through the retailers that they sell to. Probably just directly from them because this isn't actually a retail product. The localization partners that did buy wine crates are Korea Board Games, Madigo in France, Delta Vision in Hungary, Genos Games in Italy, and Maldito in Spain. So those are the partners offering the wine crate. There's a longer list of localization partners who are offering Viticulture World. Not necessarily today, they can do this on their own schedules, but if you want Viticulture World in a different language, those partners are, I'll just name the languages, Japanese, Polish, German, French, Italian, Korean, and Hungarian. That's all on the Viticulture World page of our website. Carlos says he was watching my video. So my video this past Sunday was a Tales from Production video about Viticulture World. Carlos says he was watching that, and he said, you mentioned in the Viticulture Tuscany expansion, there are some modules that no one plays with. That's true. What do you think happened during development with those modules that were not as well received? Also, so I'll answer that first. This was in my earlier days as a designer. And I was kind of like, I was just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall to see what worked and what didn't work. And in terms of testing, the modules that I'm mostly referring to are Patronage and Mafia, and those are the main two. The Mafia expansion, I don't think it ended up being very fun. Like, I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of like a social deduction game to Viticulture, and no one wanted that as part of Viticulture. And so no one ended up really playing that. That is available as a free print and play on our website now. And Patronage, the idea there was a little better, but it just didn't end up having that big of an impact. People didn't seem to gravitate towards it or play with it. You can try it. It's again, it's a free print and play. The idea behind Patronage was that you could have a few points to gain. It gives you like a little short-term goal and then a long-term goal to gain some points at the end of the game after the game is over. I think that's a nice thing to have in a Euro game, some end game scoring. There's not a lot of that in Viticulture at all. But again, people didn't end up using it all that much. And the other two, the very first expansion that I ever designed was for the 2012 Kickstarter campaign for Viticulture, and that was Arboriculture. And that one I just felt was pretty weak. I don't know. I like Beth's art for it, but I don't know. I never wanted to play with it myself. Some people do enjoy it. The one that people do seem to enjoy a little bit was the Formaggio expansion, which is the cheese expansion. Again, that's one that I never play with, but some people seem to enjoy it, and you can actually buy that one. It's not in stock right now, but you can buy that one from Print and Play Productions. Anyway, long answer there. Carlos says, also, when you were working on the Essential editions, how did you and Uwe Rosenberg balance what ended up in Viticulture Essential, Tuscan Essential, and what was left out? So it was really just me having an email conversation with Uwe and asking for his advice. And I was like, Uwe, you've played both of these. He had played Viticulture and Tuscany at that point. What do you think belongs in a core version of Viticulture, and what do you think not? So I was yielding heavily to his expertise, even though I knew Viticulture very well at that point. And the main point, he loved the red and blue cards, formerly known as Mamas and Papas. He thought those belonged. The property, the field cards, what they're called field card now, he thought they definitely belonged. And the one sticking point, the one thing that we kind of debated back and forth was the Tuscany board. But he heavily leaned towards not putting that in Viticulture as much as people use it, especially those of you who are experienced with Viticulture. You probably often play with the Tuscany board. But for someone who's new to Viticulture, it's a lot. It's a little overwhelming. It takes a medium weight Euro game and makes it a medium heavyweight Euro game. And so he recommended leaving it out. And we debated a little bit because Alan and I love the Tuscany board and we love the flow of it, but it is more. It's a lot for a first-time Viticulture player. And you can get a lot of plays out of Viticulture without using that board. So we decided to keep that in the Tuscany Essential expansion. Yeah, long answer there, Carlos. Hopefully I addressed some of your questions. Near says, the Stonemaier website doesn't recognize my email, his champion email. Contact Joe at joe@stonemeiergames.com using your email, and in the email you send to Joe, list any other emails that you may have in general so he can look up your address, and also list your region so he can look it up in the correct web store. That's joe@stonemeiergames.com. Chad mentioned Discord. Yeah, so one of the other big things, I'll look back over the e-newsletter now. One of the other big things in the e-newsletter is that we opened a Discord server. So I love that you all are here on Facebook. Some people don't use Facebook, or some people want different utilities that Discord offers that Facebook does not. We found it to be really helpful internally, and we are now opening it up to a much broader audience. And so if you enjoy Discord, feel free to check out the Stonemaier Games Discord channel. It is linked in our e-newsletter. And if you don't know what Discord is, I'm still fairly a novice to that, to Discord, so I can maybe answer that a little bit. It is essentially a private chat room about a variety of topics. And in this case, this is a big chat room for Stonemaier Games fans. And within that big chat room, the server, they call it, are different channels that are game specific or even topic specific. And what you can do, like by default when you join, I think you are subscribed to most of those channels, but you can mute the ones that you aren't interested in. You just right click on them and mute them. I found that to be super helpful. So, for example, if you are a Viticulture fan, say you enjoy Viticulture and Red Rising, but you don't care about the rest of our games, you can mute those other channels and just follow along and get notifications in the Red Rising and Viticulture channels there and talk about it. Like it's just a place to talk about our games. Also, the other big thing that Discord offers that I really, really like is that it offers, they're essentially channels, they're voice and video channels where you can talk to people in real time if you want about these games, or crucially, you can play games with other people. So if you want to get on Board Game Arena and play Viticulture or play Tapestry on Board Game Arena, you can coordinate those games through the Discord server and actually have voice or video chat in real time with other Stonemaier Games fans who are playing along with you to do that as well. You can also use it for games like Rolling Realms, which is remotely playable. You can play a game of Rolling Realms in the video channels there on Discord. Also, it's really easy to stop using Discord. So it's very easy to leave the server. So if you want to check it out and see if it's for you and try it out for a few days, a week, and if it isn't for you, it's very easy to leave. Yeah, I can't stress that enough. It really is very easy. It's literally click a button and say leave the server and you are done. You're out. Yeah. Quince says, there are a lot of comments today. I'm just going to focus on questions, but if I miss something, feel free to let me know. Quince says, I know you enjoy good movies and shows, and I also watch a variety of not so good movies and shows, but I try to stick to the good ones. Have you seen RRR on Netflix? If not, I cannot recommend it enough. RRR. Does that stand for something? I feel like I've seen that written about it. Maybe it was just as the acronym. I've not seen it, but I'll make a note of it and check it out. We just started watching Stranger Things season 4 over the weekend. I think we've watched two of the episodes so far, maybe 3. I think it's 2. Yeah, 2 so far. We're also watching Killing It on Peacock, which is a very interesting show about entrepreneurship, but it's a comedy. It's a kind of a single camera sitcom style comedy with Daryl from The Office. If you watch The Office, what else are we watching? Over the weekend, we watched, I would say, a variety of mediocre movies. We watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was fun, but I probably won't watch that one again. We watched The Secrets of Dumbledore, and we watched a movie called Emergency on Amazon Prime. All of them had their I would say, decent reasons to watch them, but and I would say Emergency will stick with me the most in terms of the type of tension it provides. But I thought Emergency was going to be a little bit more of a comedy, and it was not particularly comedic, just full of tension and some interesting questions about race. But yeah, those are the movies we watched over the weekend. Tim says, have I eaten at Chicken Out on Del Mar? They have a plant-based chicken that you might like. I have indeed had the plant-based chicken at Del Mar, Chicken Out a few times at that particular location. There's another plant-based chicken in St. Louis that I like even more. I'm blanking on the name right now. I'm blanking on the name, but it's not there. It's down near Tower Grove. I'm forgetting it right now. Sweet Art. That's what it is. Sweet Art has, I think, the best fake chicken in St. Louis. But I do like the seasoning, Tim. Yeah, I own the Chicken Out seasoning. They have really good, I think they call it chicken salt. Yeah. Molly says that she's going to try to collect all the print and play content. I mean, it's on our website. Feel free to try it. If I'm wrong, if enough people tell me that I am wrong about some of these modules that are out of print and you think they belong in print, I'll make it. But I need a lot of people to tell me that if that's the case. So they're maybe a little bit hard to find on our website, but if you go to, I believe, the Tuscany page on our website, somewhere in the FAQ, I think there is information about the out of print but printable modules for Tuscany. Joshua says, just wanted to share an appreciation that your games often play up to 5 players. Yeah, all of our games play up to at least 5 players, sometimes up to 6 or 7. He says, we have a group of 5 people, but we often are disappointed when we see games that we like, but they're limited to 4. Why do you think so many publishers still limit at 4? I think maybe the main reason, Joshua, is that, and this is from our data a little bit. So I'll try to pull it up while I'm talking. So we have our demographic survey. Let's see. Stonemaier Games demographic. Yeah, here's 2021. So I poll at least our subscribers every year to see what player counts people primarily play at. And I don't know if I did a question about player count this year. Doesn't look like I did. Yeah, I have a general question about solo one-on-one. Yeah, I don't have the player count question. But I do this survey every year, and what I find is that the most people who play games do play them either at 2, 3, or 4 players. But there are also quite a few people who play games just solo, 1 player, and at 5 or 6 players, or at least want that option. I think the reason you don't see it more often is because it costs more money. For most games, it costs, like for Viticulture, we have to pay for the extra wooden components for the 5th and 6th players in Viticulture. I think it's worth it, but in many cases, those components go unused. I'm sure there are some people listening right now that are thinking, I've never played Viticulture at 5 or 6 players. Maybe they never have even played Viticulture at 3 or 4 players. So I think that's why. It does add an extra cost. So publishers have to decide, do I want to make this a game with a $50 price point, or do I want to add a 5th player and make it a game with a $60 price point, and maybe sell a lot less copies of it instead of adding maybe that 5th player or 6th player through an expansion later. I like it. It's a core tenet of Stonemaier Games that we offer games that play from at least 1 to 5 players, ideally 6 if it works for the game. But it is something that we question all the time. Like even Tapestry. Tapestry I designed originally to be a 6-player game, and then I trimmed it down to 5 players because it was taking too long at 6 players. And also the cost of Tapestry is very expensive. And I intended to add that 6 player with an expansion. And then the more I played Tapestry at even 4 or 5 players, I think it would extend the game too much, and I think it would increase the downtime too much to play at that player count. So I decided officially kind of not to add that 6th player to Tapestry, even though that was originally my intention. Tim says that he bought the Automa version of Terra Mystica, which I believe is designed officially by the Automa Factory folks who work on a lot of our games. And he says he looks forward to trying my Atlanteans faction. Yeah, I designed a fan faction for Terra Mystica a while ago that's on Board Game Arena now if you want to try it out. Ivan says, do you understand wines, or are you a wine fan? Or was it just an interesting subject that you wanted to make into a game? I have definitely researched wines. I drink wine on occasion. I had a little bit this past weekend while playing Red Rising with some friends to celebrate the Red Rising anniversary. Had a little bit of red. White wine gives me headaches, so I don't drink white wine. But mostly, I just wanted to pick a theme. I mean, really, it was not out of a passion for wine that I designed Viticulture. It was out of a desire to invite non-gamers into the gaming hobby while still making a game that I thought could appeal to gamers, especially Euro gamers who enjoy the theme of farming in games. Yeah. George says, am I playing Rolling Realms today? Not today, George. I think I'm aiming for Friday this week. I think that's currently the plan. George says, have I started watching Obi-Wan yet? No, I've not started watching Obi-Wan yet. I'm super, super excited about it. But I don't know. We're balancing Stranger Things. We had a few movies that we wanted to watch over the weekend. So I think we'll finish Stranger Things and then we'll start watching Obi-Wan. And by then, I think the 3rd episode will be out. So we'll have 1, 2, 3 to watch. Maybe on watch it as like a movie night for Star Wars with just Obi-Wan. I'm really excited about it. I don't know anything about it other than it's about Obi-Wan. And I want to keep it that way until we actually watch it. Tim says he saw the movie Men in the theater yesterday. He says it was a very strange film. Tim says, you or Joe hinted at a Wingspan reveal this newsletter. Yeah, I've been kind of choosing when to start talking about the next Wingspan expansion, not Viticulture. And I decided to not do it today because I really wanted the focus today to be on Viticulture. All the Viticulture products are on sale. We have Viticulture World, the Wine Crate. And I thought if we started talking about Wingspan, then that would be one of the, that would distract a little bit from Viticulture. And while I am eager to start talking about it, in general, I'm eager to talk about our upcoming products. But one of the other core tenets of Stonemaier Games is that we really try to shine the spotlight on our products for a while. And so that's why we don't make many products. And so right now, today, I really wanted to shine the spotlight on Viticulture World and do that for the rest of June. And after that, we'll start talking about some other things. So I think very likely in July is when I will announce the continent for the next Wingspan expansion. Bridge City Game Collective recommends The G Word on Netflix. If I like Adam Ruins Everything. I do enjoy Adam Ruins Everything, so I'll look up The G Word. Thanks for that recommendation. Jerry says he just ordered the wine crate. Any update on whether Andrew's box art will be available for us to download as digital wallpapers for those of us without the box? Jerry, so I didn't realize you're the same Jerry that asked about that in the comments. I don't have word yet, but I will get word on that. I'll leave myself a little note about that, about Vidi World desktop. Yeah. Thank you for asking about that. David says, does anyone know if the little hats fit on the MeepleSource worker upgrades? And they do. Coincidentally, we didn't plan it that way, but they happen to fit. I think Dusty confirmed that in one of his recent videos for The Mill. Joshua says, I'm not sure exactly what your tastes are in shows, but have you seen Dark on Netflix? I have seen Dark. I love time travel in general and time loops, and I appreciate you recommending that. We did watch through the 3 seasons of Dark, and I liked that it was just 3 seasons. That was a nice fit. I think so many shows kind of drag on too long, and I'm perfectly fine watching an awesome show if it's only 1 season, 2 seasons. In this case, 3, I think, was the right fit for it. Corey says, I just went to the site, and both Viticulture World and the Wine Crate are showing notify me upon launch. Let's see if that's showing it the same thing for me. Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So I updated the link, but I didn't update the text on the website. Okay, it is there now, though. I see what people. Okay, that's yeah. I appreciate specificity like that, Corey. That's very, very helpful. Because people were mentioning that they could only see notify upon launch, and they were right because I hadn't changed the text, even though I changed the link to go to the order page. Super helpful there. I totally should have caught that, but thank you, Corey. And yeah, that's really helpful. Appreciate you saying that. And I'm looking at it now, and it looks like Joe, I think, behind the scenes fixed it. Joe or Dave did. So thank you, Joe or Dave, if you're watching right now. Cliff says he thinks the directions on our website that are PDF related to Viticulture Essential do not print properly. I've tried others and they do, but I can't seem to get that one to print. The directions that are PDF related to the Viticulture Essential Edition. So you're talking about like the rule book for Viticulture Essential, Cliff? Yeah, let me know exactly what file you're talking about, and I will look into it. Feel free to maybe send me an email with those links. I'm at jamey@stonemeyergames.com, and I will see what I can do. I would, just in case this is the issue, Cliff, I would always recommend downloading any PDFs that you see on our website. If we share like a rulebook website, download it and then print it from there. And I don't know if it matters, but we use Adobe Acrobat almost across the board. So if you can, download it and open it in Acrobat and then print it from there, and it should work. If you're printing directly from Dropbox, sometimes, or even just viewing it directly on Dropbox, sometimes the preview doesn't really work all that well. But yeah, let me know if you tried that and it still doesn't work, and what specific files I need to look into. Beatrice kindly posted the link to the where you can get an official version of Arboriculture and Formaggio. Let's see if I asked them to put up a back in stock notification link. No, they didn't do it. But you can, I don't know, put a note on your calendar to go check on from Print and Play Games, and in the future when they have it back in stock. I think they were just waiting on a few, because we actually helped them make some of the official components, specifically the little glass tokens that come with that set. And so they're just waiting for those to arrive from Panda, and then they're good to go. George says, how is the neoprene mat for Tapestry coming along? Any updates? I actually do have it. It's on the table over here. I didn't show it yet because there were a few revisions that I needed to make in terms of the text. In fact, I didn't get a confirmation from Panda about that, so I'll look into that. Oh no, I need that from Christine. Yes, so coming along well. I like the revised version that has the arts track built into it and slots for cards built into it, and even some of the miniatures are built. In fact, most of the miniatures are built into it. But we needed to make a few revisions to it. So I'm going to wait till I have the revised version to show it off. Bridge City Collective says that their rolling right goes up to 99 players. That is very ambitious. Rolling Realms essentially does scale up to as high of a player count as you want, but you just need, in the box only comes with components for 6 players, but you can buy another box of Rolling Realms and play with more than 6 players if you want. Tim says, did you play any good games over the weekend? We're still giving a lot of play to the new Azul, the heaviest Azul of them all. I did. Yeah. What did recently? Yesterday I played Wizard and Dice Forge. I played On Mars at a game night last week. I might have mentioned that last week. I played Long Shot, the dice game, and Let's Make a Bus Route, the dice game, a few days ago, and really enjoyed them. And of course, I played Red Rising for its anniversary this past weekend. And again, if you're still, it's still Red Rising anniversary time. So if you post a photo of your final hand in a game of Red Rising and tag me at Jamey Stegmeyer on Instagram, I'm happy to share it. I love sharing that type of stuff when we have an anniversary for one of our games. And I appreciate you sharing when you play one of our games on social media. And I think that's a great way to support any publisher. If you want to support one of our games, to share that you're playing it can really go a long way in supporting it. Ivan also recommends the show here, Severance. We did watch Severance, I think, last month, and really, really enjoyed Severance. Good recommendation there. Cynthia from MeepleSource popped in here to say congratulations on this exciting release. It must be exciting to make a big box and new expansion for the game that basically started it all for Stonemaier Games. Yeah, this is actually 9 years ago, roughly 9 years ago, is when Viticulture originally entered the retail market. So I funded the first version on Kickstarter in 2012, and then in early 2013, around April, May, is when we started fulfilling it and sending it to retailers. So yeah, it feels really made. I don't often wax nostalgic about that, but yeah, 9 years later to have the first product still alive and kicking, thanks to designers Francesco and Mahir and Team Automa, the Automa Factory, for making the solo mode. Feels amazing. It really does feel good. And it feels amazing for companies like MeepleSource to be making cool accessories for our games as well. I never thought that would ever happen when I started designing games for Stonemaier Games. Cynthia says, what's my favorite aspect of Viticulture World? My favorite aspect of it? Ooh, I mean, I like a lot of things about Viticulture World. I love the different continents. I love just the cooperative feel in general. Let me try to pick something specifically here. I think I did a favorite game design video about it. What is my favorite aspect of Viticulture World? There's a lot going on. Actually, well, I'll mention one thing, because it is Pride Month right now, and I really like it's such a simple solution, but I didn't think of it before. In the original Viticulture, there were only women on the pink cards or the red cards, and only men on the blue cards, and so you would only ever end up with a mama papa pairing of mamas and papas, men and women. And it took me a long time to figure it out, but I realized that if we ever made mechanically new mama and papa cards and instead called them red and pink cards, then we could have red papas and blue mamas. And that way, when you shuffle those cards into the original Viticulture mamas and papas, you could end up with papa pairings or mama pairings. And I love that. I love finding new ways to include people in our games. And so I would say that's one of my favorite things about this particular expansion. Yeah. David says, as someone who runs a lot of board game meetups, we really appreciate games that handle 5 players well too. I thought there might have been a question there, but David was just commenting there. Jeff says, did you see the announcement of the new game Terra Nova? It's being described as a simplified version of Terra Mystica that plays in 60 to 90 minutes. I did see that. I'm very curious about it. I love Terra Mystica, and so I'm curious to see what they do to streamline it, because I don't really mind the complexity, except when I have to teach it. Terra Mystica is a little bit of a beast to teach. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do with that. Yeah. Mark says, was there a hint for the Wingspan nesting box in the e-newsletter? If so, I need to recheck that. There wasn't a hint, but it's just, there's a full page of information about the nesting box on our website. So if you go to Wingspan, the Wingspan dropdown, and go to nesting box, you should see it there. Frolin says, how will the wine crate be shipped? Will it have protection if ever compressed, since it's hollow inside? It is hollow, but there's a lot of stuff in that box too, and it's a very, very sturdy box. It's dual layered. Let's see here. But like anything we ship, any game we ship, it is heavily protected in the packaging. And we also pre-packed a number of them. So we had Panda pre-pack them, some of them, at the original factory. And for those, it is really, really well packed because they're packing it to be durable for a long shipment from China to a fulfillment center and then to you. So as far as I know, it's packed really, really well. But of course, if your copy arrives damaged, what we can do is have you, well, I mean, we'll pay for it, but we'll need your help a little bit. We'll have you send your copy to a reviewer, and then we will send you a new copy. So That's one way that we deal with damaged boxes. We do not have replacement boxes because any box that we have has the expansion inside of it, and has all the stuff inside of it. So we don't have just standalone replacement boxes. Javoy says he's looking forward to Viticulture World, and he played a friend's game with a similar theme a couple times that I really enjoyed, except it's about tea. Have you heard of Formosa tea? I've heard it recommended, but I have not played Formosa tea. He says it has a cool mechanism where workers on the factory side of the board take actions whenever workers are placed in the harvest side of the board. That's pretty cool. I think I know what you're saying. So it's kind of a passive benefit where if you have the workers on the factory side, or if you have them on the harvest side and you place a worker on the factory side, that indicates that time is passing. And so the workers on the harvest side are doing stuff during that time. That's really cool. I really, really like that. I need to try that. Formosa tea. I'll make a note of that. Formosa tea. I love passive benefits. Even viticulture is full of passive benefits, like the automatic aging of your grapes and wine. Nathan says he finally got to play Arc Nova at Strategicon in LA last weekend. That's awesome, Nathan. He says, what's your general feeling about board game house rules? I ask because I know a lot of reviewers are claiming the blue section on the animal cards in Arc Nova is for a friendlier game, but according to the rules, it's really just for the solo play. So anyone using the blue section in a multiplayer game is technically house ruling the game. For that particular house rule, I'm perfectly fine with it. That's actually how I play. It was how I was taught, and so I assumed that was the rule. It fits so seamlessly that I never even questioned it, and we still use it to this day. That's an interesting case because that's one where it's built into the game itself. It's not a house rule built into the game, but it's a mechanism built into the game itself. In general, my overall feeling about house rules is if it makes the game more fun for you, go with it, run with it. Absolutely. I would recommend approaching designers of games with tact when you're bringing up house rules. And really, I guess as a designer, it doesn't always feel good for someone to come to me and say, hey, how do you feel about my house rule for your game? Because obviously I've designed the game with the mechanisms that I think will be the most fun. I'm always open to hearing feedback, and the feedback is particularly helpful if you've actually used the house rule. But I think that's the key. That's where the tact comes in. I would not suggest recommending or going to a designer with a house rule if you haven't actually tried it. But if you've tried a house rule and you learn some things about the game and the game design by doing so, then I think that's a great time to mention it to the designer in a public forum. Just say, hey, like I tried this house rule. Here's my experience with it, for better or for worse. Here's what I learned from it, and I'm just sharing it, just putting it out there. But yeah, as a designer, it can rub me just a little bit of a wrong way when someone comes up with a house rule and wants to talk about it, even though they haven't used it. So I would generally recommend trying house rules before talking about them. I know your question was about house rules in general, but my overarching answer there is if it makes the game more fun, run with it. Because that's the point of games, right? We're trying to have fun here. If you have a rule that makes the game more fun, play with it. Matthew says, any thoughts on a weekly call-in live show about board games in the same vein as a lot of sports channels? There is actually a YouTube channel that does this, Matthew. They're called the board game Beans. They have beans in the name. Beans and Dice. Carlos is on it. Let me look it up real quick. Beans and Dice podcast. Yeah, Beans and Dice. I think that's it. Beans and Dice. Yeah, so Beans and Dice has a weekly call-in show every Thursday, and it's awesome. I highly recommend it. Look on YouTube. YouTube is where they run it. Look on YouTube for the Beans and Dice podcast. And that's exactly what you're describing, Matthew. It's really, really cool. I call in from time to time. Whenever they're talking about one of my games, sometimes I'll just call in and talk about it for a few minutes with them. Lucas says, have I seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? I have indeed. I really, really enjoyed it, Lucas. And thank you for becoming a champion. Lucas mentioned that he just became a champion. Chad says, did you learn anything surprising about making a cooperative game? I wasn't the designer for Viticulture World. But yeah, actually one key thing that I learned as the designer of Viticulture for someone who is helping to produce and develop, but not design, the cooperative expansion for this game, was keeping the spirit of the original game was really, really important and not changing it into a completely different game. So crucially, this came into play with some of the early prototypes that Mihir and Francesco proposed to me, because they really took Viticulture in a different direction and made it more, they made it essentially a bit of a punishing expansion, a punishing cooperative experience. and there were interesting mechanisms, but it didn't feel like Viticulture anymore because Viticulture is inherently a very rewarding game. You were always making progress. You were getting stuff. You're getting lots of stuff and deciding how and when to use that stuff. And so once we realized that, that really helped the direction of the expansion. And that was just really important for me to keep in mind that more so for expansion design than cooperative design. But if you are going to design a cooperative version of a thing, to really hone in on and figure out what is the spirit of the original game so that you aren't betraying that spirit in making the cooperative version or the expansion version. That's what I learned from it, I would say. Jerry says, among Stonemaier games, which do you think has been the most underrated for one reason or another? It's tough to answer. I think I can't avoid putting a little bit of ego in this answer, but I was just thinking about this the other day. I think Tapestry, I love Tapestry. And I don't know. I see where it is. Like, I see where Scythe is in the rankings. I see where Wingspan, Viticulture are in the Board Game Geek rankings. We're talking about ratings for games here. And Tapestry is in like the mid 200s. And for me as a gamer, I just think I think Tapestry is awesome. Obviously, I'm completely biased here. I'm the designer of Tapestry, but I think I don't know. I think maybe if I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about, Jerry. I really love Tapestry. If I were in charge of the Board Game Geek rankings, it would be in the top 50 at least. Definitely not bumped way back to the 250s. And I understand. I think a big part of it is due to the perceived balance issues and some data driven. The data shows that some of the factions are stronger or weaker than others, and we're actively working on that. But I have never found that has detracted from the fun that I have when playing Tapestry. Yeah, I think it's a really cool game. So I would say that's maybe the most underrated Stonemaier game in my opinion. And we have other games that are ranked lower, but that's the one where I'm like, I still don't quite understand why this isn't ranked higher. Yeah. Justin says, how was Longshot the dice game for you? He says, I really liked it. Might be a new favorite roll and write that's not Rolling Realms. Longshot the dice game, I would say, is one of my favorite games of 2022 so far. It is really, really good. I really had fun with it. And I had fun with it only with 2 players. It's a game that's designed to play up to 8 players, which I think would be even more fun. I might play it at game night tonight. But at 2 players, it was still a lot of fun. And yeah, I can't wait to play it again. Kyle says, what's my favorite continent to play in Viticulture World? I think probably, I don't know, I jump around a lot. The one with the tech tracks, I think is North America, has this fame track thing going on that I really, really like. That might be my favorite. That's probably my favorite. But I like how different each of them are. They really, really do feel different without adding much rules overhead to each one. I'm curious to see what you all think after you play Viticulture World, what your favorite continent is. Oh, before I forget, tomorrow we have the book club at, what am I doing? 1, I think it's at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Thursday at 1 o'clock is the next book club. Chapter 3 of the book is tomorrow. Chapter 3 of A Crowdfunder's Strategy Guide. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. You don't have to have the book. You don't have to read it, have read it. But yeah, we'll be talking about kind of the spotlight that Kickstarter shines on a creator and how they can use that spotlight in a way to benefit themselves and benefit backers at the same time. Most importantly, backers. But we'll talk about that tomorrow at 1 o'clock for 30 minutes right here on Stonemaier Games, the Stonemaier Games Facebook channel, and it will be put on YouTube later as well. I'm going to glance over here to make sure I'm not missing anything from the e-newsletter. We do still have the Jigsaw puzzles in stock. We have some of the Scythe, not Scythe, but the Disc Golf discs back in stock. Some of them have already sold out again. We're going to make more as usual. And yeah, I think that was the big news for this month. The Discord and Viticulture World. Jason says, you've said before that you are not a solo gamer, and your first 2 games, Viticulture Euphoria, didn't have a solo mode originally. But now solo is a requirement for your games. Was there a specific experience or piece of feedback that convinced you to make such a notable commitment to solo play in Stonemaier Games? Yes, there was. Definitely. It came through Morton, who runs Automa Factory. And it was really a data-driven answer and a inclusion-driven answer, which was Morton pointed out just how many people enjoyed playing games solo and how big the solo gaming community was. And I realized that by not including them in the experience of Stonemaier games, by starting at 2 players instead of at one, that we were unintentionally excluding a lot of people who prefer to play games solo. And so that was the number one reason. When he put it out that there was a decent number of people, I think somewhere between 5 and 10% of gamers play games solo primarily, that became a must add. I actively seek to include people in our games, and gamers are among the people that I wanted to include. So that's when it became a priority for me. Yeah. Okay, Dusty linked to a video on the mill. I'm way behind on questions here, but I'll try to catch up. Adam says, I read in your article about the direct retailer program you're running in North America. Sounds really interesting. I hope this comes to the UK and Europe. Love the new content for Viticulture. Yeah, we're working on adding it to Europe too. We're just trying to make sure we get it right in the US and Canada first, and then add our direct retailer program worldwide as well. You can read about that on a blog post that I posted that Susanna wrote and I shared on Monday on the Stonemaier Games blog. Susanna is our retailer relationship manager. And we still sell most of our games through distributors, but sometimes retailers want that direct connection. They want to be able to order just 1 or 2 games here and there, and we are here to offer that service for them. What other blog posts did I did? I did a blog post, another guest post, 2 guest posts recently. The other guest post was on Thursday from Lydia, our diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. And she wrote a post, a really nice post, a short post about taking care of yourself when you go to conventions. This convention season right now, and it's the post was focused on mental health, but also a little bit of physical health. And yeah, so if you're going to any conventions coming up, take a look at the post on Thursday to make sure that you take care of yourself at the convention, so you can have as best of experience for yourself and for those around you as well. I'm going to make a quick note about that. In fact, David says, have I seen the new CGE game Starship Captains? It's essentially Star Trek as a Euro game. It looks like it has a really neat worker queue mechanism. I haven't dug deep into it yet. I haven't seen any reviews, but I need to dig a little deeper into it. I've seen the art basically, but I didn't dig deeper into what the game actually is yet. But that sounds really cool. A neat worker queue mechanism. Cool. Jackie says that she's still trying to get the website to load right now, but she's excited to pre-order. Yeah, thank you for letting me know about that, Jackie. Is anyone else having problems with with our web store? It looks like it's working for me, but yeah, let me know if you're having any issues with it, and we'll definitely look into it. And if you have a specific issue with a specific order, contact Joe at stonemayergames.com. And if you can, be a little patient with him. Joe's going to get flooded with emails today, and so he'll get to your email today, but it might take a few minutes, maybe a few hours. George says that he's played over 5,000 hours of Tapestry. George is actually at the top of the leaderboards for this month. You can post your scores for Tapestry on our website, and I post a leaderboard every month. And George had the top score last 2 months actually. Congratulations, George, for doing that, and thanks for playing Tapestry. Over 5,000 hours is incredible. Chad says, I also think that people should have varying concepts on what a civilization game should be or is. Very silly that people get hung up on that, but I think that affects people's ratings. Yeah, that's always been very bewildering to me as well. Like I designed Tapestry from the ground up as a civilization game. I think it checks like literally all the boxes of what a civilization game is, but maybe people still define it as something that's based on real world historical events and places and people and things. I specifically wanted to design a civilization game that carries through the ages, multiple periods of time, multiple eras of technology, but where you are telling a unique story of your civilization that is different than what has shaped the real world. So I don't know. I think it's through and through a civilization game, but you're right. Maybe some people get hung up on that, and that impacts their ratings. Yeah. Zach says, do you think Tapestry will be ranked closer to where Scythe currently is if their release dates were flipped? That's kind of, I kind of wonder about that. I think so, maybe a little bit. Yeah, I think, I don't know exactly what it is, but I do think if we released Scythe today, based entirely independently on what the game is and how the game plays, but more based on other factors, greater meta factors, I think people would rate Scythe lower and would rate Tapestry higher if those two were reversed. Yeah, I don't know. The key is, I think, that I need to remind myself, and this is why I don't think about the ratings all that much, or the rankings, is that the key is that we bring joy to people. That's the goal here. We're trying to bring joy to people through our games. And so, regardless of the rating, if Tapestry has brought you joy, we've accomplished that goal. That's the goal of it. And if Tapestry hasn't brought you joy, then I haven't accomplished that goal too. Obviously, it has not brought everyone joy, and so I need to continue to strive towards that goal. Yeah, I work on that every day. I really do. A few people are chiming in about their love for Tapestry in the comments. I do appreciate that. Stephen asked if Mahir is in the chat. I saw Francesco earlier in the chat. I haven't seen Mahir yet, but he might be around. Christopher says, if Viticulture World was ever going to be expanded further, then given that you've already used all the continents, where would you be interested in taking it? Viticulture in space? So yeah, someone brought this up, Carol brought this up in the YouTube comments the other day for Viticulture. We have never expanded an expansion before, but if there's ever one for that to happen for, I think Viticulture World could be a good candidate for promo packs specifically, because we could just release a promo pack of a new continent. And the continents that I might be intrigued in exploring are other worlds in the Stonemaier Games universe. So if Mahir and Francesco ever want to design I don't know, the IP ones are tough. Scythe and Red Rising are a little tough. A Scythe one would be pretty cool. But Euphoria is kind of in a different world. We have some games coming up in slightly different worlds. So if they wanted to explore one of those other worlds for a continent pack in the future, I would totally be open to that. Let's see. Yeah. So, okay, Javoy does have a question here. He says, I appreciate the fact that Viticulture World will be coming with an easy mode pack. There's actually kind of two of them. There's a first game pack, and then there's a more introductory pack, which is harder than the first game pack. He says, I often find that an otherwise fun co-op game ends up dragging or feeling unpleasant simply because my wife and I don't understand it well enough to do well with it. But it seems as though most people prefer their co-op games to be very difficult. Have you ever had an experience where a co-op game felt discouraging for you, even though the difficulty is better received in other game groups? I sometimes wonder if co-ops are geared towards more experienced gamers than the type of gamers my wife and I tend to be. Yeah, this is a great point. We had a discussion about difficulty last week, where some people kind of pushing the idea that we should have ways to make our cooperative game more difficult. But I think you bring up maybe the more relevant point, at least for me as a gamer, that making games less difficult, cooperative games especially, can be super helpful and make games more accessible to people. I certainly have had that experience. I can't think of a game off the top of my head, but I have had cooperative game experiences where I was just like, I don't, this is too hard for me to have fun. I wish I could be onboarded a little bit. In fact, I can now think of some specific games where the onboarding process is not very accessible. It's not very friendly. It's just instantly too hard. And I can see some people really liking that. I can see some gamers really liking that, but it's just not. It's not my preference for a cooperative game, especially as I'm learning a cooperative game that I'm going to play multiple times. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that quite a bit. I will say that even the first game promo pack for Viticulture World will push the difficulty a little bit, but it includes a card in it that says add a 7th year to the game. So if you get to that 6th year and you're super close, you can actually add this extra card to that continent or even any continent to add a 7th year to the game and play one extra year so that you can actually win. So permanently, you could add a 7th year if you wanted to any game of Viticulture World using that card. Jason says, your new venture into jigsaw puzzles was a pleasant surprise. Have you been happy with the sales and reception the puzzles have received? Are there any non-game products you're considering? April Fool's Day products notwithstanding. Well, actually, most of the products that we'll make that are outside of the realm of tabletop games will typically be geared towards that April Fool's sector. They're not joke products, but that's kind of the idea for our April Fool's products, things that we would normally make. So we do have a few products in mind, but they are geared towards that April Fool's release date. I am overall mostly happy with how the puzzles have sold. I thought they would sell maybe a little bit better. And so they have not, the sales definitely have not inspired us to go make other puzzles right away or make a reprint right away. We still have plenty of them to sell. I think they'll sell slowly but continuously for a while. I'm happy with the number that we made. Yeah, so I've seen photos of people posting photos of mostly the 500-piece puzzle. I think I've seen one photo of the 1,000-piece, and I'm still waiting for someone to share a completed 1,500-piece puzzle. So feel free to be the first to do that and tag me maybe on Instagram if you do that, or share about it in the new Stonemaier Games Discord channel, Discord server. Molly says, how long does it take for a rating to settle on Board Game Geek? Yeah, because sometimes we see games like race up to a certain rating and then race back down. I think it's usually around like 200, 300 ratings where we typically see roughly where it might end up in the long run. Oh, but I guess and then for the ranking to settle, that's a whole different matter because that's dependent on sheer volume, really, for quite a few people to rate it. Yeah, it's about volume. Gerald says, how much did it cost to include free replacement cards for Viticulture World, and did you have to do that for every retail copy as well? Yeah, the replacement cards we made them for every copy. It cost some money to do it, but I would not say the money is relevant in this case. It isn't something that we're passing on to the consumer. It was our responsibility. It was my responsibility, really, to implement the right solution to the problem that we identified a long time ago. I implemented the wrong solution originally, and so I had to implement a better solution, the correct solution, on the back end. And so, yeah, it will cost some money it did cost some money to make it. It is costing a little bit of money to ship it, but the shipping isn't fortunately all that much because we're pairing it with the orders for the expansion. Yeah. Chad says, a new novel recommendation, The Institute by Stephen King. It's a story about kids with powers that are taken to a lab, kind of like Stranger Things at a laboratory. I need to check that out. That sounds right up my alley. Thank you for that recommendation. Okay, Cliff update. So Cliff was commenting earlier that he couldn't get certain files to print correctly, but he tried the method that I recommended using Adobe Viewer, which is free. It's a free download, Adobe Viewer, and he downloaded the file, opened it in Adobe Viewer, and it printed great. So I'm glad that solution worked. I'm sorry it didn't work for whatever other programming you were using, Cliff, but that is, yeah, I would recommend using Adobe to download and then open in Adobe any PDFs that we offer on our website, and then print from there if you want to print them. Adam says, he's joining late. Apologies if already asked. Will the wine crate have space for the upcoming unannounced expansion? There is no upcoming. I might have misspoke there, Adam, but there is no upcoming unannounced expansion for Viticulture. Viticulture World is the expansion. We have no other expansions in the works for Viticulture. Maybe I misspoke and was referring to the Wingspan expansion. There is a Wingspan expansion in the works right now, but there are no other Viticulture expansions. And if I ever wrote that down by accident, let me know where you saw that, Adam, so I can correct that. But that isn't a thing. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to clear that up, though. Chad says, which of your other existing games would make a great cooperative expansion? What other games would it? So, let's see. I considered it for Tapestry. A cooperative civilization game I thought could be interesting. Pendulum, I think, could be interesting, where you're actually helping each other in real time instead of competing against each other. I think that could be cool. Between Two Castles, Between Two Cities already have a little bit of that cooperative feel to it, so I wouldn't do anything with that. I do like cooperative campaign games quite a bit. I would say now I definitely prefer them over cooperative competitive games, even though I have had some very positive competitive campaign experiences with A Clank Legacy, with the King's Dilemma. But like a cooperative version of Charterstone would be cool. Yeah, those are a few that come to mind right off the top of my head. Cooperative expansion for Wingspan. I would play that. I would play a cooperative expansion for Wingspan. Yeah. So Mahir did pop in to say hi. Mahir is here, but he's driving, so he can't type right now. But thanks for listening, Mahir. Mahir is one of the co-designers of the Viticulture World Cooperative Expansion. Lucas says, can you talk a little bit about the Rhine Valley cards I've yet to play? So Rhine Valley is one of the smaller expansions for Viticulture, and it actually replaces, not permanently, but for a single game, it replaces all of the other visitor cards in the game. And it does so because the Rhine Valley cards are geared towards not giving you victory points. They are all geared towards instant benefits or engine building. And that was the point of it. The point is, if you are ever frustrated when you're playing Viticulture because someone's getting too many victory points, or even you are getting too many victory points through the visitor aspect of the game instead of through the winemaking process, Rhine Valley is geared towards addressing that concern. Yeah. I'm amazed. I think Biddy just walked into this room, got a drink of water, and completely ignored the food bowl that's right there, unless I missed it. He almost never does that. He almost always goes for the food right away. Maybe he's growing up and getting more mature in his 15 years of life. Tim says, did you mention the next Rolling Realms promo will be out this fall? We're ready for it. Tim, I wish I could share these. I received 6 new promo packs the other day from Panda, sample packs. So they're kind of like the first packs off the print run. I received 6 of them, and it is going to be tough for me to space these out. I'm going to space them out over time, but there might be times that I even release 3 all at once, just so people can have 3 new realms all at once. We'll see if I ever do that. But for now, the plan is still to release them maybe every other month and release 1. But yeah, we have a bunch of these promo packs in the works right now, and I already have 6 of them in hand that I'm excited to share. Zach says, am I surprised by the sales of the disc golf discs? Yeah, I would say I'm very surprised by how well they've sold. And it is awesome that there are so many disc golfer board gamers that are among the Stonemaier Games community. I think that's wonderful. I didn't know you all were out there. And for any of you who are trying disc golf for the first time because of the disc, I think that's awesome. It is an amazing outdoor dexterity game that you can play. And yeah, I'm delighted that people are trying out the discs that we made for disc golf. I played this past weekend just with Megan. We had just the 2 of us played, and we had a good time. But I will say that all the leaves that are blossoming in spring in St. Louis are making it a lot harder to fight through certain gaps. We played at Watson Park, and gaps that my disc normally would have hit were just slapped down by these giant leaves. I think I only got 1 birdie on the day. Megan had like 6 pars though. She had actually quite a good day because Megan throws a lot of rollers. They stay on the ground, so they are not impeded by leaves. They are impeded by longer grass. But it is cool what she can do to avoid obstacles by using her roller instead of high throws. Although she had some awesome forehands the other day too. She's gotten really good at throwing forehands in the range of like 100 to 150 feet. Christopher says his hesitance on the puzzles is a lot of white space between the birds. A more complete artwork would have been more appealing. I don't know. There's a lot of. I would say on every single piece you're going to find a bird. There isn't. I would say many pieces at all where there's no piece of a bird on the puzzle. We tried to jam as much birds in there as possible, but we also wanted them to be roughly in proportion to each other, so that was a constraint. And there is artwork everywhere. Natalia and Anna created the background art for all 3 puzzles. So. That we chose artwork based on difficulty. So there's the most variation in colors on the 500 piece puzzle, and then there's mostly just blue, still art, but it's blue on the 1,000 piece, and then there's kind of a light blue, kind of cloudy white in the Birds of Prey, the 1,500 piece puzzle. But there's art everywhere. There's art on every single piece, and I would say there's bird art on almost every single piece in the game. Mike says, will the new wine crate fit sleeved cards? Yes, whenever we make an insert for anything, it fits sleeved cards. As does the wine crate. It's hard for me to hold up the wine crate. I can hold up parts of it though. Here's one of the top segments of the wine crate, and there's plenty of wiggle room and width for sleeves in that tray. Gary says he didn't realize the coins were on sale. Everything's on sale for Viticulture. Yeah. Is it possible to add the coins to my existing order? Yes. Contact joe@stonemeiergames.com with your order number and indicate what you want to add. I think that's the way. Joe, feel free to let me know if I always forget this. There's a way that Joe prefers. I think that is the way that Joe prefers for you to place the second order. No, email him first. He might have you place the second order, then combine them. But the first thing you should do is email joe@stonemeiergames.com with your order number and what you want to add, and he'll let you know what to do next. George says the first Viticulture Kickstarter ever made contained some drink coasters and score pads, right? There was some quite nice additions. Was there another Kickstarter after that one? How many Kickstarters were there for Viticulture? There was one in 2012, and there was one for Viticulture and Tuscany in 2014. And the first one was the one where we had the special stuff. We had the wine glasses, which we still offer on our web store, the wine glasses. We had a corkscrew, a fancy corkscrew, and we had some coasters as well. I think there was a score pad, but I don't think the score pad was necessary. I don't know if I actually remember that part. But yeah, it did have some coasters. Yeah. Steven says that Euphoria has the right theme for a co-op and already has elements of interaction. Yeah, I could see that working for a cooperative game. Cooperative for Pendulum, yeah. Paul, disc golfer friend, who actually tied for the win at a local tournament this past weekend, or on Monday. Congratulations, Paul. Congratulate Mahir on his Design for Viticulture World. I'm going to scroll through. I'm really at the end of the time. Oh, good. Only a few more questions. Alex says, I don't know if it has been asked, but is the wine crate ready for delivery? Oh, yeah. The wine crate and Viticulture World are in all 4 of our fulfillment centers right now. And our fulfillment centers will start shipping to champions starting on Monday. And that will take probably 1 to 2 weeks. And then they will move on to non-champions and ship. So all orders should be shipped throughout June. Yeah. You don't need to wait when you order from Stonemaier Games. Tim says, any chance the coaster's score pad or corkscrew could make a comeback? The score pad I don't think is needed. The coasters didn't work all that well as coasters. We probably could find a better protective coating now to make, but we could bring them back. They're kind of a fun little thing. But the corkscrew we could. I looked into that a few years ago. Probably not so. I would say probably we'll just do the wine glasses, which we do have on our web store right now. I don't know if they're in stock right now, but you can request a back in stock notification. But that was, I think, the best of those products because I don't know, it seemed to elevate it over those other ones. I would say the next tier down would be the corkscrew. I do still have it. It's a nice corkscrew, but I don't know if I couldn't even find the company that made it at this point. So I'd have to find a new company to make it. All right, I think we reached the end of the questions. So that is today. Thank you so much for joining me for today's chat, for pre-ordering Viticulture World and the Wine Crate. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go check out the pre-order numbers right now to see how we're doing. But most important is that you were here today. You made me happy that you showed up, and I hope our new expansion for Viticulture brings you joy in the coming weeks when it arrives at your home around the world. So take care. Have a great day. I'll throw this up on YouTube in case you have any follow-up questions. And I'll be back next Wednesday. And I'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock for the book club. Take care. Bye.